Hey everybody, I wanted to make this video today talking about two albums that I think are just absolute classic albums from two amazing musical forces. And both these albums have just been listed on needlemeetsvinyl.com, which there'll be a fancy link right down there. And I just want to take some time to talk about each of these records. So as you can see, they're right here. First we have Simon & Garfunkel's last studio album, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Then we have Joni Mitchell's Blue album. So first, let's talk about this Joni Mitchell record. So this is Joni Mitchell's Blue, which is, well, in my book, this is definitely her best record. And she has a lot of great records. Some of my other favorite Joni albums are Ladies at the Canyon. I love Court and Spark. Actually, Court and Spark is... It's hard for me to say because sometimes Court and Spark is my favorite Joni Mitchell album, but then every time I hear Blue, I think to myself, every single song on here is absolutely perfect. So this is Blue, and this pressing happens to be an original pressing, and I will show you the label here. It's on the Reprise label, and this is an extremely clean copy here, which, as I'm sure a lot of you know, if you've been trying to find a clean copy of Blue, I'll get it in the light here so you can really see that nice and glossy. Finding a clean copy of this record is next to impossible. And the reason for that is because the album is so sparse, the way it was recorded. So most of the tracks on here just feature Joni Mitchell playing either acoustic guitar, dulcimer, or piano. There are like a few songs that have like extra like overdubs, like with like bass. Stephen Stills plays some bass on here, and there's some extra guitar by James Taylor, who, by the way, at the time Joni Mitchell was dating. So it does have like, I think there's drums on like two songs. Like I know on Carrie there's drums by Russ Kunkel, but most of the album is pretty quiet with just piano, guitar, and vocal from Joni. So when records are really quiet like that, like a lot of Bob Dylan's early records, a Joni record, or like Van Morrison, those type of records, it's very hard to get a clean copy because there's so much empty space. And when there's empty space, that leaves room for any bit of surface noise to make itself audible. So finding a clean copy of this is really, really difficult. And I've been spending a lot of time trying to track down clean copies of Blue, just because I wanted to get as many as I could in order to find the best sounding ones. But honestly, the hardest part is not finding the best sounding copy, it's finding the copy that's clean. But I did get lucky, and I found 3 copies that are really, really clean. And I think I had 7 copies total to work with, as far as to listen to all 7 copies, find the best sounding one, and then of those 7, find also the cleanest copy. And there were 2 copies that were really, really clean. It was this one and another one. The other one that was really clean didn't sound as good as far as just the overall, just the clarity of the recording, and it also was a later pressing. So this right here is the one that beat all of them because it's the cleanest and it just sounds the best. And when I say it sounds the best, obviously, until you put this on your own record player and listen to it for yourself, you won't know how great it sounds. But all I can do is try to describe it to you the best way I can. So, first and foremost with this record, the clarity is unbelievable. Joni's voice has been and always will be just one of the great voices of all time. And it sounds excellent on this record, on this pressing. It's so full, it's so warm, and it really, really complements the guitar, her guitar work and her piano work on here. And speaking of the guitar and the piano, they are recorded just absolutely perfectly. They sound very direct, so they're not like very far away is what I'm trying to say. Like it seems like they were mic'd really, really closely, which gives you a really, really clear sound of what's going on. You hear a lot more, well, this is just true in general when it comes to records. Compared to like the CD digital version that I have of Blue, on this record pressing, you can hear a lot more definition in the piano playing and her guitar playing. Just an absolutely excellent listening experience with this Joni Mitchell album. And if you haven't heard Blue, by the way, you need to stop this video. Don't worry about my website. Don't worry about what I'm trying to tell you right now. Go find a copy of Blue. If it's noisy, who cares? Buy it, put it on your record player, and just listen to it, because the songs are so fantastic. Every single song on here is great. And if you haven't heard it, I'm sure there's songs on here that you actually have heard, because there's just so many classics. And it's just one of my all-time favorites. And it's also this album, in my opinion, is like other artists' favorite albums. I know, like when I've seen people interviewed, like painters and actors and actresses, and obviously musicians as well, a lot of them will list Joni Mitchell's Blue as their favorite album. So anyway, that's my talk about Blue. I would love to hear what any of you have to say about this album. Maybe the first time you ever heard it. Perhaps maybe you have a favorite sounding pressing of it that sounds really good to you. But if you're in the market to try to find a really excellent sounding copy of Blue, or maybe you just want to upgrade your existing copy because it's been worn out over the years, or it's just kind of noisy when you got it, this is the one for you. So check it out on the website. There's a lot more information written about it, just give it a look on the website. Now, to talk about this next record here. This is another record that's just a stone cold classic, one of my all-time favorite records. First time I heard this changed my life, because I'd always kind of liked Simon & Garfunkel, but I didn't know how much I liked them until I heard this. This is absolutely just one of the best albums. I know I just said that it's a stone cold classic, but it really truly is one of the best albums ever made. This is released in 1970, and it's the last album recorded by Simon & Garfunkel. And this pressing is an original pressing as well, and this is on the original Columbia 360 label. And this one has early stampers, which is always pleasing to know. In fact, this one is 1F on one side, and I believe the other side is a 2D. So you got a 1 and a 2, and that's good when it comes to this record, as far as my understanding and my knowledge of this album. And by the way, I've loved this album for, I think it's close to 15 years now, and I've probably gone through, I don't know, this is going to reveal a lot of my crazy brain. I've probably gone through like 20 copies of this record just to try to find a quiet one and a clean one, which I have had in my collection, by the way, for I think the last 8 or 9 years, because I found, and this is actually one of the coolest stories ever. I think I've told this before, but I'll tell it again now very quickly. I was in a thrift store up in Santa Cruz, California, and I was in this thrift store looking around, and in a pile of records, just like literally a pile stacked up like this, which you never should do, by the way, because that'll warp the records. But anyway, there was a pile stacked up. In that pile was a sealed copy of this record. And I, of course, bought it. It was 10 cents, by the way. 10 cents. Yes, I bought it. I took it home. I didn't get a chance to listen to it until I got back home, because Santa Cruz is like 6 hours away from where I live, and where at the time I lived. But I took it home, put it on the record player. It sounded amazing. It was totally quiet, obviously, because it was sealed. And it was an original pressing on this Columbia 360 label. So that's my copy. Since then, I've been trying to get as many of these as possible, just for friends, for family, like my brother. I know my brother Kenny has been on the search for a copy of Bridge Over Troubled Water, and I found him a copy, which he loves. And so when it came time to do my website, I knew I wanted to get a copy of the list on there as well. So I had, I think, about like 7 total copies of this album, and I had 3 on this original Columbia 360 label, and then I think the other ones were all just on the later Columbia label. That's the red label with like the orange writing around it. It's like the 70s label, I believe, is what that was used during the 70s. And for some reason, well, not for some reason, this is absolutely a fact. All of those later label pressings with the orange writing on them, they all kind of lack a clarity and a high end that these original Columbia 360 pressings, they have that. They have that crystal clear high end, and they also have an amazing low end that is hard to describe just telling you on this video, but it's so great. It's perhaps some of the best bass tones I've ever heard. That's probably due to the reason that it's Joe Osborne playing bass. Actually, he just recently passed away. But Joe Osborne is one of the best bass players of all time. He's a session musician. He played on Ricky Nelson records, Johnny Rivers records, Mamas and the Papas, Simon and Garfunkel, just a ton of amazing records. So he's playing bass on this, and his bass tone is just so excellent, and it sounds so warm, so great. And this pressing just demonstrates how wonderful that playing is. Another thing that's really cool about this pressing is that the vocals, the backing vocals, and the lead vocals, for that matter, are all so full and so rich. It's one of these records that when you put it on your stereo, it sounds almost like there are more than two speakers going at once. Like, I only have two speakers, obviously, on my stereo. I don't have surround sound. But this is like one of those pressings that the stereo image is so wide and just has so much depth and dynamics going on that it seems like there's like 8 speakers going on, because you can see the sound. You can like see something way over in the corner or in this corner, or kind of up front and a little bit behind. It's just such an amazing experience to listen to a record like that. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that with certain records that you have in your collection. And really, that's what it's all about for me, is finding that pressing that does that gives you that just full listening experience, where you're just totally you're just wrapped up in this sound. And this record right here, it does that. And I just trying to get it across as to how it sounds on a video like this is really impossible. So all I can do is just describe it to you. And really, the main thing you got to do is just, you got to get it, put on your record player and listen to it in your space, on your record player, and experience it for yourself. But I really do believe that if you got either of these records, you would have a fantastic listening experience. So these two are available on the website right now, and if you want to check them out, you can certainly do that. And there are others on there as well. And I'll be listing more this week as I'm able to do it. And that's it for now. So in the comments below, please let me know if you have any information about either Bridge Over Troubled Water or Blue. Let me know the first time you heard either of these records, and maybe you have some cool information that you would like to add in the comments below, because I love reading what you guys have to say. So that's it for now, and check out NeelaMeansVinyl.com and stay tuned for some more records. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye for now.